I was doing this Tamil film. It was after a spate of rejections in Malayalam. It was like everything I touched turned to dust. My mother said, let's go to an astrologer. I was against it, but we still went. One day after he told me there's no way they'll replace you in this film, I got replaced in the film. We sat in the producer's office and he said, just look at her face. Does she look like a heroine?
You and your rejections, and this is a well-known story everyone talks about. I mean, it's an incredible story to begin with. Since we have a place setting and a time setting and you're the protagonist, let's do a slight documentary on you. And if you were to look at it from a documentary perspective, what I would find fascinating about you, Vidya, if you were making this film right now, is incredible footage that we would have which nobody's seen before. For instance, the first time that you worked on television, and you did the entire series that nobody's seen, and you're in it. It's your debut, isn't it?
Yeah. It's my debut. It was a show called La Bellas, and it was being made for a channel that had, I think, commissioned some 15, 20 shows. And guess what? It just didn't materialize.
They didn't take off, like they didn't launch at
They
all?
didn't take off. I don't know
What channel was this?
BITV?
Okay.
Yeah. So I think they wanted it to be a paid for channel, and at that time, I don't think anyone was willing to pay for, cable channels, because cable TV was very new.
Right.
And then I think some of these shows got syndicated to some other channels, but they even rebranded La Bellas, but it just didn't.
Is that footage lying there somewhere? Is it there somewhere in a
I don't know.
digibeta or somewhere?
I should actually ask someone, if there's any footage available anywhere, because it's. I don't think it got seen. I think it did air on one channel which shut down. So that show was just, I think, I don't know.
And so your first film too, Vidya, would be with Mohanlal. Again, you would have shot for the first schedule. I'm sure there's footage of that first film of yours too.
Yeah, I'm sure there is footage. And that I know that footage was seen by a whole lot of people, which is why I got offered 7, 8 Malayalam films after that with some of the biggest directors. And then, these were all on call. They tell me the story and then they'd say, okay, this is what we'll fix the remuneration at. And there was no contract or anything. And therefore, then I got replaced in each one of them. My mom would know from the Malayalam magazines. That was a crazy period, 2000 to 2003. It was like everything I touched turned to dust. It was crazy. I remember once walking from Nariman Point to Bandra just because I wanted to clear my head. It was scorching. It was hot as hell. But it was like, in films, you see the protagonist just walks and walks or runs and literally that happened to me. Because I couldn't make sense. I'd signed 2 films. At this time, I had signed 2 films with K. Balchandar, who made Ek Duje Ke Liye. And I was to leave sometime in Feb. And there was no news. We were to shoot the film in New Zealand. So I thought they'd ask for my passport or whatever, 3 weeks to the shoot, and they hadn't. So we called them, and then, initially they were ducking our calls. And then finally my mom picked up the phone and called his daughter and said, what's happening? And she said, I'm really sorry to inform you, but we've decided to go with an established actor. And I remember it was that day that I walked. I just left home. I told my mom, I just need some. I took a cab, went to Nariman Point, and I sat there for a while and then just started walking and walked back to Bandra.
But for the viewers, that's about 25 kilometers minimum, right? Nariman to Bandra would be minimum 25 kilometers.
Really?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Okay.
But that's the Tamil part, right? That's the Tamil films that you're supposed to do.
The K. films were Tamil. Plus, there were 2 other Tamil films. One from which, after the first schedule, I got replaced. And I remember the producer, again, I did 1 schedule and then the second schedule, I heard that they had replaced me. So when I called the producer, he was sounding really wishy-washy. So my parents, poor parents of mine, what all they've been through, they actually flew with me to Chennai. We sat in the producer's office and he said, just look at her face. Does she look like a heroine? Mayank, for 6 months after that, I won't look into the mirror. And and then there was another Tamil film which I left because I felt it was a sex comedy and that was not something I'd signed up for. And they ended up suing me at the age of 22. It was like...
But if you were to
crazy.
look at, like, say, a dramatic point in that documentary film that we're putting together right now, would it be the point where there was a Tamil producer, if I'm not mistaken, who was making a film with Kamal Hassan, and this is after Parinita, when you'd become the star, and he wanted to cast you, and you said, nope. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. So I met him at the airport and he said to me, he said, hello, do you remember me? I'm not going to name him. God bless him. So I said, yes, I remember you. He said, congratulations. I saw Lage Raho Munna Bhai. And he said, we wanted to approach you for a film. I said, sure, speak to my manager. And I gave him my manager's number. When I came back home and I just said it to my parents, my father felt a great sense of vindication. I think because they felt, you feel so protective of your child, and I think they felt humiliated for me, they just felt like, oh my God, poor child, how much rejection is she going to face? And so bravely, I remember my father's colleague telling me, he said, I believe you pray a lot. Just tell God enough is enough. And I said, but I don't feel that. He said, what are you made of? And I said, I don't know. I still have faith that things will work out. I think because, honestly, Mayank, my parents have brought us up to believe that this world is a fair place, that the universe has your back. So even when things take time, it's because something bigger and better is in store. I think that has seen me through a lot.
Was it the same producer your parents met?
Yes, it was the same producer.
Same guy. Amazing.
Yeah.
What a story.
No, but having said that, Kamal Hassan then called me for the film. And I love Kamal Hassan. So, but the only reason I couldn't do the film, or rather, he required 6 months of my time, and I just started my career here. I couldn't afford 6 months. I didn't.
What about your ups and downs here in Bombay, Vidya? Like, of course, a great beginning. And then a few really great films that everyone watched. I'm not saying any of those films were not great. The ones that didn't work. I mean, there are too many other things that happen in any case, right? And then you go like twing at some point. Which was that turning point after your debut? Where is this like nosedive?
I think Kismet Connection. I think Hey Baby. It almost. I remember people telling me it's a witch hunt, and I was like, what? I don't believe in these things. It's I feel I'm too inconsequential for someone to plan a witch hunt. But whatever it is, at one point I did feel like my weight and my dressing sense had become a national issue. I also think because I don't know if it's different for the so-called insiders, but there was no one to tell me that, listen, today's newspapers, tomorrow's toilet paper, so don't take it so seriously, and you're the flavor of the season. And not a very pleasant flavor, but it's okay. The season will change.
Right.
I didn't have anyone to tell me that my parents were also getting affected, especially my mother, because she was feeling like, I guess, again, you feel so, it's like, okay, now she's got what she wants and she's doing so well, and suddenly everything she seems to do gets criticized, or everything she does seems to get criticized. So I remember, there was that phase when I was also, not getting the kind of work I wanted to be doing. At one point, I thought maybe my career so far had been a fluke, and that, because I was not really good in these films like Hey Baby and Kismet Connection, like I stuck out like a sore thumb. I remember during Hey Baby, some of the reviews didn't even mention me, and I was the leading lady in the film. Okay, that's also sexism at its very best. But having said that, I just felt really invisible. And I told myself, I said, maybe the party is over. But then, I'm so grateful that my family has always been so supportive, and I had hour-long conversations with them, hours of conversations with them, months of conversations with them, and that brought perspective because I spent a lot of time at home.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.